you can't stop scrolling, even when you want to. There's something strange about scrolling that I don't think most people notice. Reading has an ending. Even a conversation eventually reaches that moment where both people realize there's nothing left to say. Scrolling never does. It doesn't end because you're satisfied. It ends because your battery dies, someone interrupts you, or you look at the clock and wonder where the last hour went. And the thing that gets me isn't how long people scroll. It's that almost nobody remembers deciding to keep going. Picture someone. Let's call her Sarah. She's 28. She opens Instagram at 10:47 p.m. just to check one thing. A friend tagged her in something. She finds it, laughs, and puts the phone down. Picks it up again, not because a notification arrived, but because she thought of something she needed, just because the phone was there. By 12:15 a.m., she's watching a video about apartment interior design in Seoul. She doesn't live in Seoul. She has no plans to move to Seoul. She isn't even particularly interested in interior design, but she watches the whole thing. She's not unusual, and surely not weak. She just encountered something that was specifically built for this moment, so she never stood a chance. Short attention spans. That's the usual explanation for this. I don't buy it. If attention spans were broken, nobody would finish a 6-episode series in a day and would sit through a 3-hour podcast. And surely nobody would lose a Saturday to a video game without noticing the sun went down. We can focus, but the question is who gets that focus and why. Think about the last time you opened a social media app. You might have had a reason, a small one maybe, but a reason. Now try to remember the exact moment you stopped following it. Was it after the 3rd video? The 10th? Most people can't answer that. Not because they're careless, because there isn't a single moment. You don't notice yourself drifting. You only notice that you've drifted. Here's something that should seem strange, but doesn't it? Imagine Netflix served you 20 terrible movies in a row. Believe, of course you would. Now imagine scrolling through 20 forgettable videos and keep going. The difference isn't the content, it's the promise.
You're not staying because of what you've already seen. You're staying because of what you haven't. The next swipe might be exactly what you needed, or it might be nothing. You don't know it. And your brain, it turns out, finds that uncertainty harder to walk away from than a guaranteed reward. Picture a hallway with 100 doors. Behind 99 of them, there is nothing interesting. But behind one, something that stops you cold. Something funny or moving, or that reframes something you believed for years. You don't know which door it's behind. Would you stop opening them? Now, here's where I want to push back on something, because I think we've been blaming the wrong thing. I don't think social media is the problem. I know, stay with me. Social media is just content. People sharing things. Conversation at scale. Most of it is fine. Some of it is genuinely good. The problem isn't the content. The problem is the container. In 2012, a designer named Ozzo Raskin built something called Infinite Scroll. The idea was simple. Instead of clicking to the next page, content just keeps coming. No pause, no load time, no moment where you consciously decide to continue. He later said it was one of his biggest regrets. By his own estimate, Infinite Scroll cost humanity around 200,000 hours of attention every day. He didn't build it to be manipulative. He built it to be convenient. That's the part that should make you stop. Nobody sat in a room and decided to make scrolling hard to quit. They just removed the moment where quitting was natural. They took out the pause, the breath, the small friction that used to force a decision. Without that friction, you never get the chance to ask yourself if you actually want to keep going. The design isn't evil. It's just indifferent to whether you stop. Most people think the algorithm's job is to show you what you like, but its actual job is to figure out what makes you stay. Those aren't the same thing, and the gap between them is where things get genuinely strange. The system doesn't have opinions. It doesn't prefer outrage over joy or fear over curiosity. It just watches what holds your attention longer, and it serves more of that. It has no idea why something works. It only knows that it does. So if a video that makes you anxious keeps you watching for 4 extra seconds, not because you enjoyed it, but because you couldn't look away, the system files that. Anxiety is effective. So show it more. Nobody programmed that in. Nobody approved it. The system learned it from you at scale, across billions of sessions. You taught it without knowing you were in the classroom. There's a cost to all of this that's harder to measure than screen time. Do you remember being bored? Genuinely bored? Sitting in the back of a car, watching the road, waiting somewhere without reaching for your pocket? Those moments felt like nothing. Now, I think they were doing something important. Boredom is the gap where your mind goes looking for its own ideas. Some of your best thoughts have probably arrived not while you were busy, but in the 10 seconds before you decided to be busy again. That gap barely exists now. The moment boredom surfaces, your hand moves. Before you finish noticing you were bored, you've already opened something. It's not weakness. It's what thousands of repetitions of the same motion does to a person. Repetition that is consistent stops feeling like behavior. It starts feeling like personality. And so we come back to Sarah again. At 12:15 a.m., watching a Seoul apartment tour she'll forget by morning, she isn't failing at self-control. She isn't addicted. She's just a person who encountered a system with no off switch. Nobody told her that stopping was entirely up to her, because stopping was never part of the design. The app didn't ask her to stay, it just never asked her to leave. Maybe that's what makes scrolling different from everything else. Books ask you to finish, movies ask you to leave. The conversations eventually go quiet, but scrolling never asks you to stop. It just keeps the next door ready. The only person who decides when enough is enough, who reaches for the handle and doesn't open it, is you. And the moment you realize that, you've done something the hallway wasn't built to stop. That's rarer than it sounds. Most people who watch a video like this nod along, close the app, and open it again 30 seconds later. If something here made you pause, genuinely pause, I'd like to know what it was. Leave it in the comments. Not because it helps the algorithm, though it does, but because the person who reads your comment 3 months from now might be the one who needed to see it. That's the thing about attention when it's given deliberately. It tends to go further than you expect. If you want more of this, the kind of content that asks you to think rather than just watch, subscribing is how you tell me to keep making it. And if this video found you at the right moment, share it with someone who's still in the hallway. Until next time.